Every soul is a candle. Good evening, everybody. Hi, this is Phillip Namanworth. Welcome to Creative Spirituality. Before the class started, we were discussing Jewish philosophy, Hasidus, and one of our regulars in the class said that something made sense, and I was shocked because I never think about things making sense. When something relates to you, if it feels right, do we say that makes sense? We sometimes say, I get it. I get it. Even though you can't make sense out of it, you can still say, I get it. It's a sense of above making sense. But you have to make sense in order to get above making sense. So, having said that and confused everybody, perhaps we will say Happy Hanukkah. This is the fifth night of Hanukkah. For those interested on Facebook, I've been posting commentary and a different song every night. I didn't post for tonight the songs, but we had Be a Menorah, Put a Little Light in Your Life, Every Soul is a Candle, and trying to get the balance right. There are so many different ways to look at Hanukkah. It's interesting because the song I posted last night, which is sometimes called Eight Nights, Eight Lights, I told the story of it. I'm a student of Rabbi Simon Jacobson, and we were having an event from the Meaningful Life Center downtown at a very hip club called Tonic. It's so hip that there are no chairs. You have to stand up most of the night. Oh, it's for people of 15 up. Anyway, so I wrote a song called Trying to Get the Balance Right because I wanted to try to approach it from a different angle. And I rehearsed it with a Nigerian drummer, and there was a drum circle there, and it was African drums, and I played it, and it turned out pretty good. And then my band liked it, and we played it in public, and it was one of our numbers. But what does it mean to try to get the balance right? Instead of just writing another song that related so directly, sometimes an artist or a person wants to show you a clear picture of something. And artists will do this by showing you something that's a little off to the side. Sometimes writers will do it with a metaphor or a simile about something that you can relate to, that you understand, and then perhaps draw you in to see how that's part of something bigger. We might say on some level that the stories, the narrative in the Torah is a little bit like that in terms of you can understand the stories. They're kind of crazy, but anybody who's watched Netflix or anything has seen these kind of crazy stories, people doing things that seem we don't know why they're doing them, relationship problems, brothers fighting, twins fighting, people tricking other people, all kinds of things like that. These are stories meant to give us something to latch onto, and yet they are they are given in a way they make us question everything about them. And this is the good part of it. This is how we draw deeper into something by asking the questions. I know when people in advertising do things, they say, how can we look at this in a way that's different to get people's attention? But what the Torah would like us to do is to use our brain, to look at something and say, I'm not sure how this plays, but there's a lot of questions here. Why is Jacob sort of stealing blessings from his brother? Why is this one being sent away? So the point of questions is very much the point of Judaism, is that we should continue to ask and not accept things at face value. because what is the story telling us? Is it propaganda? Is it religious propaganda? You want me to believe that Moses went up on a mountain and got the Ten Commandments. You want me to think that it's okay that Jacob stole a blessing. You want me to think it's okay that Laban tricked whatever Jacob. No, the thing is, you have to move your mind. Today, people have accepted so much from social media and other places without really uh, using their brain. You hear something enough times and hear something enough times and you start believing it. The Torah is not set up that way. It says the Torah dibur b'lashon b'nei Adam. The Torah speaks in the language of a human being. Now, is the language of a human being mostly rational or is it mostly emotional? What do you think? A lot of the times our responses to things and our reactions come from our emotions, or they come from an intellectual faculty that was formed when we were young, when our emotions formed our thinking. In other words, if a child understands if he acts a certain way, there's going to be certain repercussions, his intellect starts telling him, don't act that way, which is in a certain situation may be fine, but in another situation, it may be inappropriate. This is the kind of situation we run into when this is a situation we run into in relationships a lot. You don't have to say everybody has their either their picture off or it reminds me of a story or is eating or something. So I see the names. Oh, hi. Someone's face is back on the screen. It reminds me of a story of these this professor. He figured out that why do I have to go give a class? I'll have my tape recorder and I'll put it in front of the room and I'll leave. So one week he does that, and that's fine. The next week he comes in and he puts his tape recorder down there, and there's no students. There's only tape recorders. So when a person is giving a class, he wants to have people to look at because I feel like I'm talking to letters and name tags. So if anybody could come online, that would be really good. If I have enough people sitting here, it would be helpful. Oh, thank you very much. I feel like I'm talking to myself, and I've had enough of that, I'll tell you. So this is Hanukkah. And one of the things about Hanukkah is that I think it's important, just like the way we've been studying this year, which is slightly different, which getting facts about things is to let us know when Hanukkah happened. Did it happen during the first temple or the second temple? What happened after it? Okay, so here's a list of dates. The first temple was destroyed in 422 BCE. The second temple was built in 352 BCE, and the miracle of Hanukkah happened in 165 BCE. Second temple. See, this is one of the things we got from Brian. He's always asking, who comes when? What candle are you? And it changed my thinking about this because it's important. So that temple was built in 352, and after about 150 years, we had the miracle of Hanukkah. It was destroyed in the year 70, the Common Era, 70 CE, and It lasted 420 years, I believe. And who was there? Were we fighting for freedom? Was it just a battle? What kind of battle was it? So we find out. I just want to read from another. I took out some books just so we know. What happened was the Roman Empire uh, was taken over by Philip of Macedonia somehow in the 300 to 400 BCE. He died. His son Alexander the Great took over, and he died at the age of 33. And he wanted to make everybody as smart as the Greeks. He was a real, so whenever they would conquer some place, they would send people into culture, make them cultured in the Greek way. He died. There was a fight, and then there's after that it was the Egyptians fighting with the Syrians, the Seleucid Greeks, and Antiochus took over that area of the world, which was where Israel is. Then at some point they lost to the Romans. The Jewish people, even though we had our second temple, were still under the rule of other people. We had our spiritual life intact, but we had a lot of taxes and there was a lot of trouble. And finally, at some point, the Romans took over again and they heavily taxed the Syrians, who now ruled the area, and they need to collect their taxes. So they went to the Jews. They had heard that the Jewish temple had a lot of gold. That gold was the money for the sacrifices and for orphans and widows. So they sent someone to take the gold. The high priest at that time told him, "Don't do this. Please don't do this." So the emperor sent someone, and as they stepped into the temple, they died and never came back again. Eventually, there was generations passed, and there was one more than the other of trouble with the Greeks. What was the real trouble with the Greeks? Because this was the way of the, think about it. This was the way of the world. One country conquered another country. It wasn't just in that area of the world, right? You had the Greeks fighting and the Spartans fighting, and then you have new empires forming. So what was different about this? The Greeks, it's very interesting, come from Yavan, who come from Japheth. Noah had three children, Shem, Ham, and Japhet. Shem gives us the Semites. Ham gives us the Canaanites and the Egyptians and others, and Africans. And Japheth gives us the Greeks. This is how far back this goes. The Greeks were dedicated to knowledge. They were dedicated to literature. They make many. You have the Pythagoras, you had Ptolemy, you had all very intellectually oriented. When they conquered a place, they were interested, as Alexander was, in turning the place into a very cultured place. So they had a problem when they came to Jerusalem. They didn't mind that we studied the Torah. They didn't mind that we had rituals. Only one little thing bothered them. Does anybody know what that thing was? God. They wanted us to study the Torah as though it was just regular wisdom. They put it in their library. We have our wisdom. They have their wisdom. We do our rituals. They do. Everybody does rituals, right? Wherever you go, there's people with cultures with different rituals. The thing that bothered them is that it was all for the sake of heaven, because this was directly against their philosophy about how the world worked. that it was more haphazard and it was always here. They believed the primordial matter was called Hiuli. And we use that expression also after the creation. They use it was always here. So they tried to make us um, forget God. Now, it's interesting enough is that remember that the Greeks translated the Torah into Greek under Ptolemy. 70 sages from Israel were taken to the Greek islands, separated totally, and made to translate the Torah into what's called the Septuagint, which means the 70. Each one of them made 14 changes. Amazingly, they all made the same changes without even talking to each other, without even seeing each other, because they wouldn't understand. We open the Torah by saying, Breshis bara Elohim, which means in the beginning of God's creation. If you translate it into Greek, it's something named Breshis created Elohim, created God. So they changed that. They changed a number of things. So the Greeks were not after wiping the Jews out. We were paying the taxes. It wasn't the first time that that nations have been conquered, right? This is our second temple, and we have a temple, and we have a high priest, and we have our rituals. And little by little, they say you can do what you want, but you have to stop believing in God, so to speak. In other words, you can't keep Shabbos under pain of death. No Rosh Chodesh, no circumcision, and they would keep these rules. There was another thing that they did that when a woman was getting ready to get married, one of the Greek generals would take her and sleep with her. This was a horrendous thing. If anybody knows the famous painting of Holofernes, who was the general, Judith, Yehudis killed him and chopped off his head. It's a famous painting also. So with Purim, they were trying to wipe out our bodies. Haman wanted to kill us and wipe out our bodies, right? So how do we celebrate that holiday? Eat, drink. They try to get rid of our bodies. Well, I'll show you. It's physical. But with Hanukkah, it was solely to kill us spiritually. Now, anybody on an individual level knows that when their spirit feels down, it's a very depressing kind of feeling. Some days you wake up, you feel great, right? You don't know why. Next day you wake up, the vicissitudes, you feel down. I don't know why. You see what it does to your energy in your life. They just wanted to kill our spirit. They wanted us to be like them and take on what they called wisdom. So they tried to make us, they sent soldiers into different places and caused havoc until one time they sent soldiers into a city called Modin in the north of Israel. And they sent soldiers to sacrifice a pig. And they told Matisyahu, the Hashmonims were a priestly tribe from Kohens, to make a sacrifice, and they absolutely refused. But a Jewish Hellenist, what's a Hellenist? The thing that was terrible about Greece was that they were converting a lot of people. In other words, yeah, we'll do it. We'll go to shul once in a while, but we don't believe it. We're Jews by culture. He stepped forward and said, I'll sacrifice it. So Matisyahu took his sword and he killed him. And then the rest of his family there, they fought with the garrison that was there and they wiped them out. It was not that many people. It was fairly fair fight. It was numbered. We didn't know which way it was going to go. It wasn't like that they had 1,000 men and we had 10 or anything like that. It was even numbered, and we beat them. The Jews beat them, and it started a war. The Jewish people at that time went into guerrilla hiding up in the mountains. So people joined them, and they would come down and make forays into the soldiers there. I don't know if anybody's familiar with these details. All because we wouldn't give up our religion. And the feeling was after Matisyahu died, I think Yehuda and Ruvain was one of them was very wise, and one of them was a Yehuda Maccabee. Does everybody know the term Maccabee? Does anybody know what it means? No, you speak Hebrew?
Hammer.
Hammer. Okay. Maccabee comes from the first initials of Mi Chamocha B'Oelim Adonai, who is like God our Lord. That's the first initials. In other words, they determine we will fight to the death, even though it looks like we're going to lose, because we're not going to give up our essence. And this is really the essence of Hanukkah. It was the battle of light over darkness, over the darkness of materiality and the lightness of spirit. Now, we do live in a material world, and our job is to bring the spiritual part of our life, the fun, the love, the affection, the art, the knowledge, the consideration, the compassion, all of that into the material part in a holy way, according to who we are and what our abilities are. Everybody is different. So this started at that time. So we know that after that battle, Antiochus III called in 40,000 troops. I'm giving you approximations here, 40,000 troops. And they battled with the Jews. And the motto of the Jews was, Mi chamocha b'olim Hashem. We will fight to the death rather than give in to this. This was not an even battle like the first one. The first one could have gone either way when Matisyahu struck the guy. Maybe the Syrians could have beat him, but they didn't. That's called a salvation. What's a salvation? We say, we're thankful for the salvations, the miracles, and the wonders. That's what it says in the prayers. What's a salvation? What's a miracle? What's a wonder? A salvation is if two armies go up against each other and they're evenly matched and one wins. In some sense, that's a salvation. It could have gone either way, right? That was the first thing. And yet it's still a miracle, but you could say, well, luck of the draw. The miracle part was when 40,000 troops came and we had a very small army and we defeated them. That's a miracle. When when the few beat the many, that's a miracle. Now we go to the ruins of the temple. Everybody knows this story in some way. And they're searching through the debris for some oil to relight the menorah. By the way, to some accounts, the golden menorah had been stolen. So they had to build one right there out of a cheaper metal, because you're allowed to do that in a extreme situation. And they had found that the Greeks defiled the oil. The question is, what's the question? If you're conquering a place, why do you defile the oil? You destroy the people, you destroy the buildings. You think you go around to, what do you say? Oh, I wonder what the oil is. Let's make it impure. That's the sign to show you that they understood that the oil represented mitzvahs and Torah and holiness. They were trying to defile our holiness. And this is the same thing you get on the social media. People try to make you question and doubt holiness. The answer to that is no. You can't. We won't let you. We don't negotiate. We don't make excuses for the way we are. Do not negotiate with people or give answers. You don't have to. This goes for today. There's no need. We're Jews. We're connected to God, and this is what we do. So that's a miracle. But they knew the Greeks had defiled the oil, and then they found one one cruise of oil. I saw recently they found in archaeology something from that time, an oil thing that has been sealed since that time. It was made of glass and there was sediment in it and it had never been opened. And what it looked like, it was just fantastic. But is that a miracle that they found it? It could have been overlooked, right? So that's called a wonder. So we have miracles and salvations, miracles and wonders. I'll read you what we say in the prayers every day. We add Al Hanisim V'Al Hapurkum into the on Hanukkah in the prayers. We say, and we thank you for the miracles, the redemption, for the mighty deeds, for the saving acts, and the wonders which you have wrought for our ancestors at this time. So, why is it salvation, miracles, and wonders? Three things. In your life, they're going to find many things that are like that. That's the order in which they happened. But when it's told back to us, we say miracles in a different order, but how they relate to us. A person has to understand that light, this holiday is mostly about light. We tell the story, but we don't do any rituals based on the defeat. As I said before, in Purim, because there was feasts and they tried to kill us, we eat. We do physical things. Here we only do, this is the festival of light. Light represents our connection to heaven. It represents mitzvahs. It represents Torah. It represents the thing that draws down more light from above. These are the days of miracles and wonders. Wasn't that a song by Edie? What's her name? Rickwell? Oh, no, it's Paul Simon. This is a long distance call. So in our lives, a lot of things happen where we think it could have gone either way. It's sometimes hard to understand that because of your behavior, it went your way. Now, this goes back to something that David was talking about. David's still there, about karma. And though we don't have that exact concept, we have Mida Keneged Mida. Your behavior, just like it tells you in subatomic physics, affects everything around you. Anybody, it's not Newtonian. In nuclear physics, if you stare the wrong way at a table or something, the molecules have moved. This is what we know. You make a difference. Here's a better, I think. You walk into a room with a bad attitude, the whole attitude of the room drops. Right? You see it happen. Someone comes in very high and it's catchy. They didn't do anything. You affect your environment because we are one with oneness. We are one with the universe. We are one with the essence of reality, except it's concealed. It has to be concealed because otherwise we would be puppets. But it's not concealed at the same time because you see it in your own life with the little things, the little compassion. Someone calls you out of nowhere, a friend. You say, "Thank you, God." just brought up my whole spirit, or some little thing happens. That's more of a salvation. It's a thing that could happen. Could go this way, it could go that way. But you can also get to a point in life where whatever happens, you understand that it's some sort of salvation. In Psalm 18, verse 6, Psalm 16, sorry, verse 8, it says, Shavisi Hashem lenegdi somid. I always have you in front of me, Hashem. Wow, we walk around thinking about Hashem all day. Don't walk into the wall. Be careful crossing the street, you know. What does it mean? So the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidus, says Shavisi at all times means whatever you send me, I know it comes from you. If I think it's good, if I think it's bad, whatever it is, it comes from you. And having that somewhere in your emotional vocabulary, in your intellectual vocabulary, and in your body, that it's part of you, that even though you may be having problems with something, you understand that part of the equation is that there is something different happening underneath. We may not get to the point where they tell a story of how hard this is to do. There was a teacher in the Talmud who said the last Mishnah in Brochus is Chayav Odom Mevorech al Hara Kashem Shehu al Mevorech Hatov. A person should bless God for the bad in the same way he blesses him for the good. So it says this teacher was always telling his students, whatever happens, you got to give God a blessing. And this teacher made his living importing things by boat and stuff. So one day, his boat, one of his big boats with all his fortune, was crossing the sea, and it sunk, and members of his family passed away and everything. And says, who's going to tell him? Nobody wants to go. Who wants to tell this news to your teacher? So this one student says, I'll tell him. And he says to the teacher, you know how you always teach us that no matter what happens, we should bless God? Yes, you must bless God no matter how bad it is. And the student says, well, start dancing. Your boat sunk. And the teacher fainted. And when he got up, he said, until this moment, I didn't realize what that meant. It's good to say something, and it's good to integrate it, but you have to make things experiential. The way we make them experiential is by using our body. The way we use our body is through mitzvahs, because mitzvahs are physical. It's not I'm a good Jew at heart. It's not I believe things, but I don't have to light candles or to observe Shabbos. If you don't do anything, there's no vessel for all the goodness, for all the spirit in you. Call it whatever you want. It has to have it's light. Spirit is more light than body, right? A light has to have a vessel. The 7 candles on the menorah are 7 vessels for light, for the 7 different cosmic DNA of the Midos. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchus, the 7 emotional categories, attributes. There are 3 more, Chochmah, Bina, Da'at, which stands for Chabad. There are basically 10 attributes which radiate into this world so we can relate to something higher. It's called the cosmic DNA in some way. Chochmah, Bina, and Das means the kind of intellect that you can develop. But is the intellect coming from your emotions deciding what's best, or from the social media, or is it coming from above? There's the power of thought, which is given to everyone. So someone thinks, if I used my brain on this situation, I must be really thinking right. I used my brain, I didn't go by my emotions, so I'm having a fight with my thinking and my emotions. Not really, because the thinking was evolved through limitations. So we say in the davening, I'm not saying you give us knowledge, meitcho, from you, higher wisdom. In other words, wisdom is chachma. Chachma means the power of what? 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 Ma. Hebrew, ma, what? It means the ability to separate your ego so much that there's room for a thought to drop into it from outside. You're not always so full of yourself. When that wisdom drops in, it's called chachma, but it's an idea. Oh, I heard something in a class. I don't know what it was, but it stimulated me. Because when you first hear it, you don't know what to do with it. It comes with a lot of information. But once it's in you, you put your mind on it. And that's called Bina. That's why you can't listen while you're processing. When you're receiving, you can't be processing and commenting. Kids receive, they take it in. Adults are thinking, can I use this? Can I make a living here? Is this guy saying something political? Blah, blah, blah. We don't know how to take in. You have to get out of your own way and be empty. Because in the space of humility is where the light comes in and it replaces the ego. Leonard Cohen says everything has a crack in it because that's where the light goes in. It's from one of his songs, right? What are the cracks? The light filters out through the cracks and broken things. You know why? Because the cracks are where your ego has fallen away. If there's a crack in you, it means also that sometimes your ego has fallen away. And even though it's painful, the light can come in. That's why sometimes a broken heart is just the thing that'll get you to make the changes. We shouldn't try it. You don't have to. Sometimes we're all broken. Hemingway said everybody's broken and some are stronger in the broken places. Of course, he didn't wind up being one of those places. But we say the three-chord knot, Chochmah Bina Da'as, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and the women, the mothers. When you have three strands and you braid them, it's stronger than any two. It's a knot. Say something breaks in your life and you retie it with a double knot. It's stronger in that place. If you go to addiction centers or something, those people have been broken. But if you can fix it in a certain way, they're not going to be broken again. Those are the people who become the real, you know, pioneers for that kind of thing because they've been hurt and they know what it is, but they somehow mended it. They made a tikkun. So Hanukkah is about the light that you have. And what do we say? We say in the temple they found one cruse of oil and they were able to light the lights. So what's the shot? What's the story? Well, they could have lit with just that one and it would have been fine. But they wanted to wait 8 days. So they were going to light with the one and then they were going to wait 8 days. Why? Because they wanted to do it in a pure way. They were attacked because of the purity of who they were. The halacha is when there's times of dire need, you can use impure oil for the sake of the community. They said no. This was a fight against the purity and holiness of our sacred soul. We need to have pure oil. So they lit with one night, and all of a sudden, we're not sure if they put it in one lamp or in all of the lamps and it burned or how they did it exactly. Probably somewhere it's written. But it burned for 8 nights because of our Mesiras Nefesh. We would not settle after being challenged on the level of our holy soul to not repair it on the level of purity. There must be something in your life that is pure. We say in the morning, Elokainu Shemosh Asatabi, God, the soul you've given me, Tahora, it's pure. You created it, you gave it, you blew it into my nostrils. And that purity enables you to be willing to go past yourself on every level for the sake of heaven. This is called Mesiras Nefesh. They were willing to give up their lives rather than to give in to the Greeks. Now, Hasidus makes an incredible statement here. We always think that that little cruse of oil they found was a physical thing, and it was. I'm going to be posting one of my songs called Lights Along the Way about rebuilding yourself when there's a little cruse of oil inside you. What is that thing inside you? What is that cruse? You have it. When you're broken, you have to remember you have a cruse of oil from before you were born, from when you were pure. How does a person get to it? One way, ultimate humility, Mesiras Nefesh, willing to give one's very being for something higher. That willingness, and we're not on that level, everybody. Not everybody's going to say, maybe people say, oh, listen, I'll bow down. Listen, I just want to preserve my life. But if in your own terms, when you face something, if you're willing to give everything for that, that is a cruise of oil. And that cruise, which comes from your willingness, can rebuild you with ultimate light. So Hanukkah is an extraordinary holiday. And let me mention this. The Jewish people did not gain political freedom after we won. That did not come. We were still under the rule of the Syrians, Seleucids. Our freedom, our political freedom, came much later. So it's about the battle because you can't get to the part of having the miracle unless you defeat the enemy, right? If you lose the battle, there's not going to be any fight for your soul. There's not going to be any going into the. So every day we are a little bit at battle in the same way that Jacob and Esau, he had to wrestle with himself. Jacob is wrestling with Esau, but he's really wrestling with the potential parts of himself that can be corrupted. And that's a daily trip. And it can often take the guise of I'm I'm so sure about this. This is so true. I know it's right, and this is a good thing. When actually it's not. So we got battle. And one of the things that we say in the Pirkei Avot is "Aseh l'cho rav and kani l'cho chaver." Get yourself a friend, make yourself a rav. Get a second opinion. In medicine, what do? You have something really wrong, you get a second opinion. I know the old joke, right? To go for a second. Doctor, me have a second opinion. He says, yeah, you're ugly too. Ba-dum-bum. Jewish mountains. But a second opinion, someone who could maybe say, yeah, I see what they said on the first time, but there's a new treatment that I didn't know of. Or with the problems that you have, I would do it tomorrow. Or or you have time to wait on this. Or I wouldn't do it. There's something new that just get another opinion. In the end, who's going to make the decision? You. But you want to make it from a decision of knowing that you use your brain in life. You're busy trying to figure things out in the Torah. If you spend some time figuring things out spiritually in your life, when it comes to things that happen to you right in your own face, your brain will be much sharper because you're used to seeing. Now, it's interesting. If you light Shabbos candles, you can use them to read by if you want. You could, if they're there, you could use the light. We have a shamish on Hanukkah because it says Lola Hishtamesh. You're not allowed to use them. Elor liros. You're only allowed to see them. You're not allowed to use them. Isn't that amazing? So when we light candles, I've got mine right up there, and then we sing Haneras Hallelujah, and we just look at the candles. And what do you see? You see oil and a wick and a flame, and what's in that flame? There's a dark blue at the bottom. There's a little black, and then there's a red, and there's a white. This is what's happening between the spiritual and the physical. The oil of your good deeds creates the fire. If you don't have the oil and you just burn the wick, it just goes out. You need a body to hold it. So what can we make of? You shall only see them. It doesn't say don't use them, but it says you should see them. Think of people. Think of people as candles on a menorah. What's our job? To see them, not to use them. See them for who they are. Don't think about what you're going to get out of everything. Learn to see people. That's what Hanukkah is about. You learn to increase your vision. You increase your sight. You increase your understanding. You gain a certain type of freedom. The the uh, the study and the discipline gives you the most freedom. Many musicians from classical music, Stravinsky and people like that, had extraordinary knowledge of structure. But because they knew the structure in and out, they could use the structure to transcend the structure. There's 12 notes in the Western scale. You learn the scales, you learn whatever your arpeggios, but the idea is to use them in a way that transcends them. The laws of the Torah, the halachas, the stories are yours to use as a structure to transcend in your own life. Use the structure to transcend the structure. They are not traps that, oh, I have to daven now. Oh, we all say the same words. Oh, I can't eat that. Oh, I can't do this on Shabbos. If you talk to anybody who lives that kind of life, they never think of it that way because it's freed them to have an incredible, to have meaning in their life. I'm not saying there's not problems in every community, but purpose of structure and the purpose of light is clarity. Hanukkah is also about clarity. Now, what is clarity? It says Torah or, ner mitzvah v'Torah or. A candle is a mitzvah. In other words, the oil is really a mitzvah, and the Torah is a light. What's so important to say about saying that? Picture you just came into your house, but the furniture's been moved around. There's no lights on. You're going to bang into things, you're going to fall over, right? This is our life. What happens when you put on the light? Things don't disappear. You just know where to step. That's the Torah. It tells you where in your life to step, which things are dangerous, which things can harm you, which things can help you. That's why the Torah that's why they use the word enlightenment, clarity. When you have a problem that you don't understand, it's a problem. When you get clarity on the problem, you have a situation. It's still a thing to take care of, but you know what it is. This was stated in a mimer of Viyadata by the Rebbe Rashab. If you don't know what's going on, I'm a mess. I don't know what's going on with me. And then you finally say, oh, I know what it is. Oh, it's that thing. I didn't want to deal with it. But now you have something to fix, but it's not as problematic, even though it is, because it's a situation that you have to fix. It's not, where am I? Who am I? What's going on? So what we look for when we talk to others, when we have problems, it says, Dogashab Lev Yashkena, when you have a care in your heart, talk to someone because maybe you'll clarify what's going on. It doesn't mean you're going to find the solution. You have to know the situation. So back to Brian's thing, which candle am I? Know as much as you can about who you are in a brutally honest way. Just give yourself the space, don't judge it, and then say which thing is in balance and which thing is out of balance. I don't have to fix my whole personality because I've got some stuff. I mean, some people do, they're real difficult, but most of us have a little stuff out of balance. If you find it that you're very good at giving and you can't receive, work on your gavura. You don't have to work on going to the shrink and talking about your mother and father until you're 22. You know, work on that issue because all of those issues come together to define who you are. All of the attributes that you have bind together into a personality. That binding together is called yesod. In the Torah, yesod is Joseph. During Hanukkah, we read about the story of Joseph. This is the story of Joseph, that you can bind yourself together to create a new kind of person. All of the brothers, we discussed this before, were shepherds. When they came down and he taunted them to see whether they had changed from who they were, he was able to bind them into knowing they could live in whatever environment they had to be in and bring holiness there because he was still holy. And that's what created the tribes. That's what created the first exile also in Egypt. But it's this thing that saved us as well. I want to read one interesting thing for a follow-up. It's a little Kabbalistic, but we use the word oneness and unity and a lot. So the Jewish people as a whole are referred to as Knesset Yisrael, all of us together. We are compared to the menorah of gold. Does anybody know how the menorah was made? Okay, Lindy does. For those who don't know, it was not put together in pieces. It had to be created out of one piece. Today, we're still trying to figure out how they do that. I don't know. Did they throw it in a mold? We don't know how they did it. There's a lot of discussion, but it had to be one piece. Okay? So we are compared to the menorah. One piece. What do you mean? I'm different, you're different, we're as different as can be. Just as the menorah, which contains 7 branches, was made of a single block of gold, similarly, the Jewish people are a single unit soul. All of us are part of one gigantic cosmic soul that has 7 different branches, 7 different traits and personalities, which we talk about and we'll continue to talk about, right? It's not the first time we mentioned it. Although there exist 600,000 general souls, there are 600,000 general souls, which are each composed of 600,000 particular souls. You want to do the math? Do it. That feels like it's a lot of different people. Nevertheless, in general, these 600,000 general souls are included within the 70 souls that first came down to Egypt. Remember, it says the Jewish people came down, there was 70 people. That's how many we were. So, where's the oneness? Furthermore, these 70 souls are incorporated within the 70 categories of souls, within the 7 categories of soul. So each of the 7 branches is like 10 different types of the Jews that came down, each one making up one of those branches. And hence, all the millions of Jewish souls are incorporated and included in the 7 branches of the menorah. You're not just lighting your menorah, you're connecting to every Jew that exists today. that ever will be and that ever was, because we are part of one people in a way that no other people is. And with that, I give everybody a bracha. There's plenty to think about. Enjoy your Hanukkah. You're supposed to enjoy it. And after you light the candles, sit and look at the candles, watch them. Think of the story that they tell. Think of the story they tell about your life, the light that came into it, the dark times, how sometimes things burn the wick out. Listen to the story that the candles tell. Everybody should have it. This week is Shabbos Hanukkah, and let me see, it's Rosh Chodesh on Saturday, or Saturday, Shabbos and Sunday. So it's
Torahs.
What is that?
3 Torahs come out this week.
Oh, yeah.
The Shabbos.
Right. They've been hiding. They're going to come out, sneak out. And thank you, Liddy. And everybody should understand this is not a holiday that has anything to do with any other holiday, no matter when it falls. And this is not considered a major holiday in Judaism in a way, although everything is major. The 5 holidays, the five holidays listed in the Torah: Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkot, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. Purim and Hanukkah happened after, and the Rabbonim, the rabbis, decided. On the first year that this happened, no holiday was proclaimed. They had to wait a year to see if the same spiritual energies were coming down at that time of year. And when they felt them again, they proclaimed them a holiday. The holiday is to give thanks, praise, and light lights. And may we have the opportunity to do this to overcome the darkness in our life and in our times. Stay strong within who you are. Give everybody a bracha. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. If no one ever gave you a blessing in your life, I'm giving it to you now. It's a priestly blessing. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Yo Adonai ponav elecha v'yihuneka. Iso Adonai ponav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May you be blessed. This is Phillip Namanworth, Creative Spirituality. We'll see you next week.
Every soul is a candle. Every soul is a candle of God, sent down to this world, to your special